Video 2.3 Ways of accessing the Azure Cloud. In this video, we will be covering the following topics: ways of accessing the Azure Cloud, console, CLI, SDK, PowerShell, Azure Cloud Shell. We already know that Azure is one of the best cloud service providers, and there are hundreds of services provided by Azure. But how can you access those services? Let us now see the different ways in which we can access Azure services. The easiest way of accessing the Azure services is using the Azure console, otherwise called Azure Portal. To use the portal, first you need to sign in to your Azure account. The account creation will be discussed in the next section, so don't worry about it. After you sign in to your Azure account, what you will see is the Azure Portal. Using the portal, you can deploy, manage, monitor, and delete the Azure services. You can manage your Azure subscription, and you can also see the cost and usage dashboard. So basically, it is a web-based, unified console where you can do everything. The other method to access the Azure services is with the help of Azure CLI. As you are aware, a command line interface or CLI processes command to a computer program in the form of lines of text. But why should you need the Azure CLI when you can use the Azure Portal with which you can deploy resources with simple clicks? Microsoft has a CLI option because it is easy to learn and easy to use. The Azure Portal doesn't serve you well for some things, and the CLI is meant for these. The Azure CLI works on Mac, Windows, Linux, and also in the browser. To install CLI, type Install Azure CLI on Google. Go to Microsoft Documentation. Please select the required CLI and install it. After installation, open the command prompt and enter AZ to install Azure commands. These are the base commands in Azure. The most important advantage of CLI is it has the facility to use repeatable commands. Suppose you want to deploy 10 VMs. Using the portal, you need to click the VM 10 times. But with CLI, you can change some parameters in command and you can deploy as many resources as you want. Moving on, the Azure Software Development Kit SDK is a collection of libraries of different languages which makes it easy to use the Azure services. Search Azure SDK on Google and open the Microsoft documentation. You can see SDKs for .NET, Python, Java, JavaScript, C++, and many more. Install the required SDK as per your needs. You can access Azure services using the PowerShell as well. A PowerShell is a task automation and configuration management framework. It has massive built-in functionality. You can use PowerShell when you want to perform complex operations. The CLI and the portal cannot help you in such cases. It also has repeating operations like in CLI. PowerShell works on commandlets. These are specialized sentences that implement a particular operation. PowerShell has modules that help to extend its functionality. To install the PowerShell module, check out the link in the resources. Suppose you are using the Azure Portal from your mobile device and you want to access the PowerShell to perform complex operations in Azure. What can you do now? Should you wait till you have a computer? Not at all. Log into your Azure account and press this icon, which opens the Cloud Shell. It gives you the flexibility to choose the shell experience that suits your needs, either Bash or PowerShell. It is an interactive, authenticated, browser-accessible shell for managing Azure resources. These are all the different ways in which you can access the Azure service. In summary, in this video, we have covered the following topics: ways of accessing the Azure Cloud, Console, CLI, SDK, PowerShell, Azure Cloud Shell. Section summary. In this section, we have covered the following topics: the basics of cloud computing, the Azure Global Infrastructure, ways to access the Azure Cloud. In the next section, we will get started with creating an Azure account.